Good day, everyone. Great to have you join us today. We're focusing in on our long-term goals and our near-term goals. And we're really thinking about what that means at this time. I'm just gonna pop my screen share up. I'm gonna pick the right one. Hopefully that will work. I'm gonna pull this back. I think we are good to go. I just want to do one more thing before I get going here. I'm going to pop up the chat window and we've got Q&A going. So we're going to spend the next probably 60 minutes plus, and we're actually going to do some work here. It's not going to be just a one-way webinar today. It's going to be more of let's get some work done. Let's take a look at what our goals are, and let's take a look at what we're thinking about when we look out into the marketplace that we're facing today. So before we get going, and while we get going, I'm just going to click to the next slide. And we have a playbook download. I know that it went out in the email to remind you to join us today. And I know there's lots of people who have downloaded it. We're just going to put the link to that playbook in the chat window. Gary, who's on the WXN team, who is very generously supporting us and supporting this. And I'm really happy for this opportunity. It's going to put that in place. And I am just going to actually have a look to make sure it's there. And I'm just, Gary's going to put that up. While Gary is putting that up, yep, the download will be a link in the chat window. It just got put up now. Thank you so much, Gary, for doing that. And while we're actually getting people to download the playbook and we're getting organized and people are joining us, I just want to pop up a poll. And the poll is just a question I ask lots and lots of leaders and CEOs about their business. And I think I'm going to give Gary a chance. There we go. The question is, do you have a BHAG? And you might say, Shannon, I don't even know what a BHAG is. And if that's your answer, obviously it's a no, but maybe you do have a 10 to 30 year goal for your business. Lots of people laugh at me when, when we actually put a question like that out there, because they actually say, well, I'm not even going to be with my business 10 years from now. I don't even know why we would need that. I'm so tired of writing down 10-year goals that I give up on 10-year goals. And so with that, we want to actually start thinking about why a goal, right? Why a goal? And the results of, you know, that poll that we just saw that popped up is 75% of the people on the webinar right now don't have a 10-year to 30-year goal. And I know most people are probably smiling going, that's just crazy, especially in the marketplace we have today. But I want to take you through why that's not crazy, why that will actually help you make decisions today, right, for the future and where we're going. So in the playbook, if you have it, and if it's not downloaded yet and you don't have it printed off or anything like that, just take your notebook. And when you see a picture like this, what is one word that comes to mind? And even if you want to share it, type it in the chat, what that word is that comes to mind. I definitely have a word that comes to mind when I see this picture. What's your word? Feel free just to chat it in. Endless, windy, adventure, nice. Maria says journey. Laura, endless. Sophie, holidays, I love it. Another journey, right? Possibility, excellent, love it. Bumpy, unpredictable, excellent. Life, fun. Yeah, I get the same excitement when I see words like that. And I actually, when I see a picture like this, it actually opens my eyes up really wide. And I think about the destination. I think about where could this road take me? Some other words out there: opportunity, blind, freedom, another journey, right? And when we're building a business, it's definitely a journey we're on. And when we're building a business, we're not on a journey by ourselves, right? And I think I made that mistake as a young CEO, thinking we're all on our own journeys. Well, actually, we're all on the same journey, driving the company forward. And my own experience was thinking about that as we built up my first business, Paradata, even, when we got acquired into PayPros, right, in 2006, then starting and driving our second business, Subservio. Then we went, we got bought up and we went to DST Systems. But every step of the way, including right now, the journey I'm on with Metronome United and Metronome Growth Systems, we know what we have written down as a team what our destination is. And having that helps us make decisions today, not only myself, but my whole team. And when we think of the key objectives of what I want to cover off with you today, it's really about understanding, in our last webinar together, and whether you were with us or not, we talked about building the longest cash runway you can. Well, when I see a road like that in the picture we just shared, I think of, in order to actually, if I'm going to ride my bike on that road, if I'm going to drive my car on that road, if I'm going to take a team with me on that road, we need to actually fund it either with fuel. If I rode my bike, I'd need to be able to eat, or cash, right? To put gas in the tank of my car, or gas in the tank of the bus that my team is on, driving to a place that we've chosen, a destination. So we're thinking about these goals as destinations, and we want to set them out there. We want to get out there, and we want to get the whole team looking at the same destination and agreeing upon that destination. And then we can figure out how to get there together if we know where we're going. And so when I thought about this in my first business, and when I came across some really great thought leaders, and one of them was Jim Collins, and a BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal, coined by Jim Collins and his partner, Jim Porras, and as they wrote the book and did their research, is that the greatest companies out there had a big, hairy, audacious goal. It doesn't matter what size of company you are. It doesn't matter if you're one person. It doesn't matter if you're 10,000 people. Having that 10-year goal is really, really important. And in their work, it's 10 to 30 years. And I couldn't imagine, though I did this, mistakenly as a young CEO in my first company, having, built up 100 people on our bus, and we weren't absolutely clear on where we were going. So if we've got everybody on the bus and they're in the right seat, in the right position, doing the right things, we have to know where we're going. And so I hope if you take anything away from here today is think about your team, think about who's on that team, and think about what clarity that would bring if you were in their seat, if we actually knew what our destination was. And we have different horizons on our destinations, and sort of that's what I want to talk about. What are those questions we need to ask ourselves? What are the things we might have to painfully gut out to actually ensure that bus efficiently, effectively, and of course, having a lot of fun to get to our destination? Now, I stopped in last time on the growth system, the Metronome Growth System framework. I'm going to stop in a little bit further today. We're going to actually spend a bit more time before we get to work, because I just want to provide the context of how this all fits together and give you the context of, wanting to take some action on this, wanting to gut out some answers when we get there in that next section. So when we're building a company, I loved it. I love the road, but I always think of, we're, and especially in a high growth company, and I don't know any company out there who doesn't really want to grow. So we're always climbing up that mountain, and we need to know where the top is. That's our big, hairy, audacious goal. We need to know where our 3-year highly achievable goal is, sort of like where that base camp is. I'm fascinated with mountain climbers and people who climb Everest and all the other big mountains out there. I think it's an amazing analogy when we think about business. They have to actually overcome the external elements, in the weather and all the things. They also have to overcome the team elements to get there. And they also have to set interim goals to get to that big, hairy, audacious goal to get to the top of the mountain. And so with that, we know that there's many base camps if you're going to climb Everest. And so with that, we think of these goals as our own base camps, that we, our team, decide what our destination is, what's the end goal, and then what are all the steps to get there. The barriers in order to get there, when we think about this, and it's actually true whether you're climbing a mountain or building a company, the number one barrier to building a company. Anyone know? Anyone want to type it in the chat? I'm just giving a second to see if anyone knows it. So the number one, no plan. Okay, good guess, Virginia. And that no plan comes as a result, limiting beliefs, owner. Lisa Martin, good answer. So it's absolutely the leadership is the number one barrier to growing up a company. Number one barrier. And that sounds ridiculous, but leadership, for all the answers that were just typed in, no vision, not having a strong will, willingness and desire, limiting beliefs, all comes from leadership and all comes from the decisions we actually have at our fingertips to make or not make. The second barrier is market dynamics. So if we think of a team climbing a mountain and we think of the market dynamics, there is all the weather and all the things they're monitoring as they climb up the mountain, including oxygen, right? Market dynamics is us being the experts in our market and understanding the external things that are going on in our market. And if we're not experts at that, it's really hard for us to grow up a business. And it's really interesting if you look at history of some of the biggest companies that have fallen off in a market, is they actually lost touch with their market dynamics. The last piece is scalable infrastructure. So many times we see companies take off and then they hit a plateau. And they hit a plateau because they have to catch up to their growth. And they have to catch up to their growth. And one of the toughest things is balancing that people and process with the infrastructure we need to grow up a company. And right now, a lot of people are either thriving in this marketplace, their business is overwhelmed because they're positioned really well, and they're scrambling for the infrastructure. And on the other side, in some cases, we don't have as much relevance to this COVID market we're in right now. And we have maybe too much infrastructure and we're trying to find that balance with people and process. So these are the key things that Jim Collins studied, that many academic research have studied, that it keeps coming back to these three things. With my own experience as a CEO and leadership team coach today, as a CEO myself, leadership is the number one thing. And if we think about that, if we think about what do leaders have the opportunity to pull together, well, Jim Collins would say disciplined habits. Jim Collins would say continuously learn. And Jim Collins would say an accountability mechanism. What we learned in our experience in growing up our companies is we learned that if you put the word team in front of that, team includes leaders, team includes alignment, team includes actually that collaborative brain. And if we do this together, it actually creates the system we need to grow it up. From there, if we think about it, and I mentioned this before, Vern Harnish back in 99, 2000, we came across his one-page plan tool, and it founded the basis of the Metronome Growth System framework and able to tie all things together, from our culture to our strategy. You can see our BHAG in there. Our 3HAG is our 3-year highly achievable goal, where strategy and execution meet, which lines up with our annual goal, which lines up with our 90-day goal. And so these are the things we're looking to line up. And when we take that away and we remove that, we want to actually look at it from the basis of what do we need in our business today, yesterday actually, and tomorrow in order to continue to drive to where we want to go. Well, we need to know our core purpose. We need, and not only us, just the CEOs, right, or leaders, everybody needs to know what the core purpose is of the organization, core values, your 10 to 30 year goal. We're going to talk about that. Cohesive system, right? How do we get the team driving to that team result, right? Those goals. And there's a Pat Lencioni's framework is brilliant for that, and you can layer it in and iterate it and get better and better. Then we have our human system, and we powered that up by top grading. And top grading came out of Brad Smart's work with Jack Welch at GE. And that format is ensuring that everybody on the bus knows what's expected of them, knows why they show up every day, and knows how they're measured, right? And they want actually to be measured, right? Everybody, we don't play a game without a score. We don't play a game at the end of the day and you get to the end of the game and they pop the score up. We know the score. And so it's really important that when we think of this house, it's all about the team, right? This house, this could be anything in that house now. This could be a football team. All these things matter. This could be a U6 soccer team. All these things matter, right? Or this could be a business team of any size. And we need a strategy system to actually align to our execution system. And we need that 3-year highly achievable goal to line up to our big, hairy, audacious goal. At the absolute core of this that we talked about last time is all about mapping out our cash and knowing what cash we have in order to drive the bus forward, in order to put gas in the tank. This is called the Metronome Growth System Framework. And it's called a framework because it actually depends on where you are on your journey, what pieces you might have to turn the dial on. And today we're focusing in on the goals, right? We're focusing on goals because we're trying to drive and get better at predicting the future. The better we can get at predicting the future and lining up our forecasted cash with profit, expenses, revenue, and then widgets, forecasting what are those things that we need to put through our business in order to drive the bus forward, needs to line up with our one-page growth plan. That 10 to 30-year goal, that 3-year goal, that 1-year goal, and then what do we have to do in the next 90 days? So let's get to it. We actually talked about this last time, that we need to stay focused on where we're going right now. We know that it's not a straight line, and the line and maybe the decisions we thought we were going to make pre-COVID, we've made so many more since, this all started. I can't even remember how many weeks ago, 10, 11 weeks ago, maybe we're at 12 weeks. And we thought that, when we always build our plan, it's really easy to write the plan down. It's really easy to see that, oh, that's the direction I'm going. And it's, we spend 1% of our time writing the plan down, but we need to spend 99% of our time aligning the team on the bus with us to where we're going. And that's why these goals, these 10-year goals and 3-year goals are really important, because we know it's never a straight line to get there. It's always going to take twists and turns, whether it's a downturn market like we're in, whether new technology comes in from the side into your marketplace, whether there's another offering that's going to compete with what you do today. We know that we need purpose and goals. We know we need to over-communicate, because it's a team of one is not a team. A team of 2 and more, we need to over-communicate. And we need to ensure that we have the cash in the tank, or the cash in the bank, to get us there, and the means to get us there. And there's been lots of focus on cash and the immediate things right in front of us, and I get that. Every company I work with globally and all the coaches I work with, we've been absolutely focused with teams on making sure those decisions are getting made for the short term, but in context of the long term, right? The long term, that 10-year and that 3-year. So let's jump in. So when we were together last time, if you joined us, you saw this picture, and this comes from McKinsey & Company. They have been putting out an amazing series of articles, sort of guiding companies and views at this time. I've been absolutely addicted to them, and they've just been going out. I think they must come out every week. Maybe it's every day, and maybe every day feels like a week right now, but they are coming out regularly, and I really love the 5 horizons. We are moving now to that horizon 3, horizon 4, and beyond that. And now this is the time to actually not lose our long-term goals and throw them away. It's time to actually confirm them or re-up them. And we're doing that because we want to make sure we have the cash runway to get there. This was out of an article that hit my inbox yesterday from McKinsey. And basically, and you've heard me say the word decision so many times, as leaders, we get to make decisions. We want the whole team to actually make decisions. That's why we want these long-term and near-term goals. And the decisions now that we make will determine how strongly we come out of the COVID-19 crisis. So think about that. The decisions we make right now will definitely drive our success on how we actually drive through this time and out to the other side. And I love this new term that I saw from them yesterday, how well we'll perform in the next normal. I much prefer the next normal than the new normal. I don't know what is about the normal that I don't like, but I much prefer the next normal because it's going to be normal, right? Whatever we're facing, whatever we're learning how to interact, that's the next normal. And so in order to do that, they put it together in this article. It's called Rev Up Your Growth Engine. Lessons from Through Cycles Outperformers. And we're going to go, I always say we're going through the tunnel, through the cycle. We actually want to make the best decisions to get through this. And this article is all about how do you outperform and the decisions you need to make and understanding where can we grow and how can we grow. And this gets back to the market dynamics. It gets back to leaders having those goals set out, re-upping, confirming them. And it really is no different than what we looked at last time. I popped this up and I left it in because as a COVID-19 CEO and leader, right, we have to understand what, is our core purpose still the same? Great, let's confirm it. Let's make sure everyone knows it. Are our long-term goals the same? Or if we don't have one, let's get one. Right? Because it will absolutely make it easier to get through this time. It'll be speedier to get through this time, and we'll do it with confidence because we can see where we're going. When we have that whole bus of people, right? We've got 120 people on the bus with us, CEO and leaders in the front driving the bus, right? When we get to a stop sign, we want to know with confidence, should we put the blinker on to go right, or should we put the blinker on to go left? Or should we not? Should we go straight? We want to make these decisions with confidence. And if we've talked about it enough to understand what our goals are and to re-up them, it will make it way easier to make those decisions and to make many decisions. And so with this, we know that in the last webinar, I wanted to bring this back into focus. We looked at this alignment, right? We looked at this alignment. We actually looked at and we talked about mapping our cash from the bottom up. So we have that cash runway. We have a cash horizon, right? That picture that we showed at the beginning, I want my cash to go all the way to the horizon. And some of you are going, oh my gosh, Shannon, I have cash maybe for I might be able to make it to the next, payroll, or I'm scrambling for that. I get it. I totally get it. But we just have to have visibility on it. The second step, we focused in on our 1 year and our 90-day. That's good. And that gets us through this time. But now it's time to look up and look out. Look out through the windshield and go, let's figure out where we're going to take this team, this bus, our company. What is it that we want to do? We need to have a great team on the bus with us, right? That never stops. And you might have grown at this time, so you might be hiring, right, and adding people in with haste, or you might have, unfortunately, had to involuntarily let some of your team members go, right? Or they're on furlough or whatever we've had to do to preserve our cash runway. Everybody understands that lots of companies have had to do that at this time. But we need to have a team. We need to actually put something together so we have the opportunity to look out. It's about having the opportunity. And we're looking out to that 3-year highly achievable goal. Now, a lot of people think it's just about the goal and writing it down. And today we're going to talk about writing it down. But that goal lines up and marries up with the decisions we make around our strategy. A 3HAG is strategy and execution. And today we're actually going to talk about, what are those questions that we need to answer, right at the very, top of this. And we call that gutting it out. On the back of this, I'll show you a slide that I don't necessarily always show this slide because it's got 12 steps to make the greatest decisions you possibly can to get through this time for your strategy, to get through this time. But I didn't want to leave here without sharing that. So if we go back to this and we think at the very left of this, core purpose, right? Core purpose is foundational. Even our own core purpose at this time is foundational. As a leader, we need to understand our core purpose. We need to align that core purpose with the organization. And so I just grabbed a couple examples of some core purpose. Now, these are well done. These are well talked about. They're out there. And if you think about Starbucks and Disney, right, the core purpose of Starbucks, the original core purpose of Starbucks was escape. The core purpose of Disney still today is happiness. Now, they've had a great time talking, thinking, evolving, and they've got it down to one word. Most companies I work with, their core purpose is not down to one word. I think of one company of all the companies I've worked with, it's 2 words. So, you know, but they've worked on it for a while. They've talked about it. They've talked about it themselves. It's well known in the organization. So I grabbed a couple other examples I wanted to share with you. 3M's core purpose, and I just grabbed these off the web, to solve unsolved problems innovatively. Okay, good. When I think of 3M, I think of Post-it notes, because I use so many Post-it notes in what I do today. You'd think I owned Post-it notes in 3M, but I don't. But that's what I think of. But the Post-it notes came from that innovative culture that they have and that core purpose. Merck is a US company and it's to preserve and improve human life. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't even have to be social if you don't want it to be. It's truly, if you think about it, why did you start your business? Why was your business started? Mary Kay, I love Mary Kay, to give unlimited opportunity to women. Beautiful, right? Clear, succinct. It attracts people to that core purpose. That's why we want to be really clear with our core purpose. And I've had experience in my second company where we were really clear with our core purpose on people we were hiring, and it didn't align with their core purpose. I'd rather know up front than if they joined the company and then they find out later what our core purpose is. So in your playbook, you have a spot. I actually don't have, it's terrible. I don't have the playbook in front of me, but I know, I believe it's on the, I'm guessing, I think it's on the second page, the third page. There's a little box there. There's 2 boxes on that page. At the top of that box, it will say, on the left-hand side, it will say core purpose. It's a really small box on purpose. And either write it down in your notebook or write it down in the playbook. But I want you to write down what your core purpose is. Now I'm going to say, if you don't have a core purpose today, or you sort of know it, it's not clear, I want you to gut out your core purpose. I don't want you to leave this time without taking this opportunity to write down a core purpose. Okay? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay, just write down that core purpose. Paradata's core purpose, nothing fancy at all. The reason why we existed was to create an organization that others would value and to create a great place to work. Because that's why we, myself and my 3 other core founders, came together. One, we came together to actually build a high growth company in mid-90s to knock it out of the park so that others would value it and we would see liquidity sooner, and so would our shareholders. So that was why we existed. Nothing fancy. It could say to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. It could say to create a lifestyle that I wanted. It could say, you know, we're going to actually solve, you know, we're going to find the pandemic, the COVID-19, you know, vaccine. It doesn't matter what the answer is. It just matters that you write it down today. So I'm going with a thumbs up that you've got that written down. Now, if you have one, and you've had one for a while, I want you to think about, there's a great, I'm just going to leave you with this thought. Simon Sinek has this tool called the Golden Circle. And the Golden Circle will help you really further define that core purpose. So, and it will ask you some questions to actually peel it back and peel it back. Because if you have one, you might need to re-up it. If you just wrote one down, you might feel it's long and clunky. And it's called the Golden Circle, Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. It takes like 30 minutes, if that, to do it. And you can do it with your team. It's a really fabulous process and questions. So core values, right? Core values are your handful of rules. These are the consistent behaviors that, you know, are in your organization, acceptable in your organization. Now, there are values out there and they can get confused, and those values are brand values. These are core values of your team. Core values of your team. These are the things that you are looking for when you hire someone, when you recognize someone, and that, you know, they remain constant. It's your handful of rules, behavioral rules. And you normally fire someone who don't have, you know, the same core values as the team, and you want to hire someone, and you want to make sure that you keep them alive. Now, I don't recommend gutting out core values. So you either have these core values and you can write them down, or you've got to go discover those core values. Now, I grabbed some core value examples. I grabbed Facebook's, I grabbed Virgin, H&M, I grabbed, of course, Paradata and Subservio's. Ours, you know, we built up, we had the table stakes of, you know, teamwork, committed, integrity, trusted. That's all table stakes, right? Those had to be in place. But these were the things that we wanted team members to inherently value. These were part of their values. Happy to come to work, happy to leave. I'm based in Whistler, British Columbia. I've lived here for 30 years. I've built up 4 global businesses out of here, and this was core to our culture, right? It's a lot about who I am, but it's all about who joined our team. Hungry enough to want to make a difference every day. So it doesn't matter what role you played, you're not going to let the ball hit the ground. And humble enough to want to learn every day. And that was huge. I'm a huge learner. I made the mistake of learning by myself every day in the early days as a CEO. What I realized, to Jim Collins' credit, is that if you learn together with your team, how great. But we are looking for people who had these core values. And each and every one of these examples I pulled up are of the team member, and of the collective group. So as I said, if you don't have core values, I want you to actually not gut them out. Do not gut those out. I want you to actually write this down. I want you to actually go and look at Jim Collins' exercise called Mission to Mars. Mission to Mars takes no time to do. I use it in my business. I use it in all my clients' businesses. It's one of the best ways to discover your core values, because I know they're already in your business. I know you're already operating that way. It's just a matter, we need to pull them out and make them known, well known in your organization. I think if you ran into someone from my team from the late 90s, early 2000, they could probably tell you what the core values of the organization were, because they were always front and center. Now, I popped this in just to close out this section about the Simon Sinek Start With Why. And this is the golden circle. These are the questions we want to ask. The core purpose and the core values are your core ideologies and the absolute foundation of your business. And these are as important now as ever because of the marketplace we're in right now. And lots of people don't take time to work on this in a down market. Why? Because they're going, hey, Shannon, I just ran over there and put a bucket on that fire. And then I just ran over there and put a bucket on that fire. But I got to tell you, find the time, book the time. That if these aren't solid in your organization, please that's the one thing. If you can take that away, it actually helps all the team members, right? Your whole team, we've got a bus of people, understand why we're actually driving in a certain direction and what is expected of us in regards to how we play together. If we continue to stay focused on where we're going, that's at the very top of the alignment. If we go to the next one, that 10 to 30 year goal, Jim Collins' big, hairy, audacious goal. Now, Jim did a lot of work and a lot of research on companies that, had the greatest resolve in any market. Down market, up market, these companies all had a 10 to 30 year goal. They all got focused on the one big thing. And the big, hairy, audacious goal comes from Jim Collins' hedgehog concept. And the hedgehog concept is about linking up the core purpose of the organization with the core business of the organization, linked to how that core business will make money. The intersection of those three things bring forward your big, hairy, audacious goal. And you're probably saying, well, I don't know all the answers to those questions out 10 to 30 years. I don't know that right now. And so I didn't either, honestly, when I was reading this, I didn't either at all. I absolutely decided I'd work with my leadership team and we'd gut out our big, hairy, audacious goal. Having a destination, one that's gutted out, is better than no destination, is what we learned. And having that destination, it gave us something on the paper to challenge, discuss, to have heated discussions, to go do homework, to paint the picture. And so I hope I've convinced you to gut one out, because that's what we're going to do next. And the reason we want to do that, as you can see in that diagram I keep showing, core purpose, BHAG, 3HAG, 1HAG, there's an alignment. We're actually driving somewhere. It's the road I showed at the beginning. That's the road we're on. That's the journey we're on. If we don't have our destination laid out, then our team doesn't know where we're going. They might only know when the next gas stop is, or the next bathroom stop, or the next time we're going to stop for lunch. But they don't know what our end goal is, what we're driving for, and what we're striving for. And today, what I want you to walk out of here with some enthusiasm to thrive towards that big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's absolutely connected to your 3-year highly achievable goal. Now, there's some examples. I'm going to show you a couple examples. So the key thing we learned about a big, hairy, audacious goal is don't put a number in it. Now, I know that goes against every last thing we know about how to write a SMART goal. But my experience with this has been in my own companies, putting a number in it, as well as all my, working with different clients who have numbers, is as soon as we put a number in that goal, what happens? Well, I can tell you what happened to me. So we put a number in that goal. We had our big town hall. As a leadership team, we were so excited to sort of talk about it with the whole team. Everybody on the bus, let's talk about where we're going. And we put the number in our big goal out there. And the first thing was, gotta love my team, not afraid to raise their hand and ask the question or make the comment. Someone in the back raised their hand and said, I just did the math of 10 plus years out, and there's no way we could get from here to there. Okay, like, it's not about that. It's not about how to get there. So I just want to lay that up. When Microsoft wrote down a computer on every desk and in every home, okay, Microsoft was a software company. That's just what that was their destination. They had no idea when they wrote that down how they were going to get there. It didn't matter what it did for their team. And we know lots of people got behind it, and it's still behind Microsoft. I'm still a big fan too, is that the team got behind that and because they could see the destination. You can't see a destination in a number. You definitely can't see a destination in a dollar figure. If you say, we're going to be a $500 million, billion, trillion dollar company, whatever you're going to write down, you just can't get there. So we want to actually write it without a number. So Amazon's original one was every book ever printed in any language, all available in less than 60 seconds. That's the other important thing, is that your big, hairy, audacious goal will evolve as you run, as you drive the bus down the road, it's going to evolve. And we need to keep checking in on it. Is that still where we're going? Is that still where we're going? Paradata's was a leading global payment service provider. It was good enough for us to make great decisions as we were 4 people in a little garage-like setting in Function Junction, Whistler, British Columbia. We were able to make decisions that we could grow up a global payment service, decisions that wouldn't stall out our scalability. decisions that would actually make us look at the market differently, decisions that we could make every day. So that's the key around that. And I can't leave Nike out. Crush Adidas is a great, big, hairy, audacious goal. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, there was 75% of the people on this webinar don't have one. I want you to gut one out right now. Remember, no numbers. I want you to gut it out, write it down on a Post-it note and put it in front of you. Write it in the workbook, write it in your notebook. Type it into wherever you might be typing, but I don't want you to leave this webinar without one. If for the 25% of the people who have one, I want you to look at that and look at it from, say it out loud. I know we're on a webinar and I can't hear you, so say it out loud. And say it out loud. And what we do, the more we say that big, hairy, audacious goal, the shorter it will come, the more memorable it will be, and the more we'll be able to see it, say it, and paint the picture. Okay, so I'm hoping you have your big, hairy, audacious goal written down, 10 to 30 year goal. And it probably feels uncomfortable. Anybody want to type in their newly written down big, hairy, audacious goal? And it feels good to share it. If anybody wants to, I've never asked anyone to do that in a webinar chat, but if we're in a room together, I'd ask somebody to share it. Every woman in Canada know who WXN is. Nice, love it, Virginia, awesome. We want that, and we want them to be a part of it, right? It's a great, I see it myself. All online events will automatically incorporate captioning to ensure communication accessibility. Love it, Lauren. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. I've been doing work, I've done tons of workshops, but they're usually in person and people will share. So thank you for being courageous and doing it online. I really, really appreciate that. So lining that up, let's think about this. Jim Collins has some great test questions, and these are just there to guide us, right? Is it exciting? I think the two that Virginia and Lauren just put out are really exciting. Are they clean? Is it clean and compelling? Yes. Yep. I love Lisa Martin's, every female leader has a position and power she wants. Love it, right? Does that connect to the core purpose? I'm sure it does, right? Broad team excited? Well, I think we're all excited, right? Big step in capabilities? Unfortunately, it is. We do need to take some big steps towards this and able to tell if we can achieve it in 25 years. Now that's a big one. I always say 10 to 30 years because most people can get their heads around 10 plus years. And I think for every one of those BHAGs that were just typed in, I hope it's actually we get there faster than 10 years. And that's something that we know. Okay, something that we know is that when we write down goals, we will get there usually sooner than what we thought. I've seen that from a 10-year BHAG, that 10 to 30 year. I've seen people get there in like 5 years, 3 years, because they just weren't thinking big enough. I've seen a 3-year highly achievable goal that we're going to write down. People have got there in 1 year, 18 months. Why? Because we've written it down. We now have a team focused on it, making decisions towards where we're going and getting creative in how we're going to get there. So I love those. Thank you so much for sharing all of those. These test questions are just really important for us to actually just level set. And every time I do a quarterly meeting with a client, every time we do a quarterly meeting in my company and any of my companies, we always stop in on core purpose to check in. Is that still true? Core values, do we still agree? Our big, hairy, audacious goal, is that still true? Is that the one? We always come back to this, and this is every 90 days. So congratulations to everyone who's written it down, maybe for the first time or re-upped, maybe for many times. If you have one, you're probably following some of this methodology. And that's really important that we don't not stop in on your long-term goal at this time. So now you're looking at gutted out the 3HAG. And I'm just going to sort of create an example. This is Paradata. And I just sort of filled in what we just worked through. So core purpose, core values, and our big, hairy, audacious goal. which is, I think I gotta click one more button there, to be the leading global payment service provider. The one thing I didn't stop in on today, but is important, and it's part of the hedgehog concept that I mentioned, which is the economic engine, right? How are you gonna make money at your core purpose and your core business? How are we gonna put the profitability, the core purpose, and your core business together, right? The intersection of that is your BHAG, you just wrote it down. And then the profit per X. Right now, we just got it out. Most of us just got it out of BHAG, right? In that box, I just want you to write down the way it's set up is profit per what? If you're going to make, if that's your BHAG, your profit per X is a great measure of your BHAG. And the number doesn't have to be in your BHAG, but it's a great way to sort of guide some of the decisions as we get there. Our profit per X at Paradata, so we're a payment, think about this, back in the day, way back, it seems like, I actually said earlier, it's 25 years ago we started that company. That makes me seem very, very old, but our profit per X was profit per merchant. So if we were going to be the leading global payment service provider, right, we were going to have to figure out for every merchant we put on our platform, we couldn't do it as a loss. Like that's pretty obvious, right? So I want you to think about it in your business. What's that thing? And it's a thing. A merchant is a thing. A merchant is a widget for us. What's that thing? Profit per what in your business that you'd have to actually, make true in order to, make that big, hairy, audacious goal true, your 10 to 30 year goal. Okay, so I just popped that in there to sort of tie it all together. And then we're gonna, as we work across that picture, so we've got our core purpose and our core values. We've got our big, hairy, audacious goal. Now we're gonna work to our 3-year highly achievable goal. And I wanna tell you a little bit about the 3-year highly achievable goal. When we originally started Paradata, we had our annual goal only. We had, a plan that we'd work every month, every 90 days. And then we found Jim Collins' work and we went and did this core value, core purpose, great. And then we found, the hedgehog concept, the BHAG, and we're like, great, that totally makes sense. It really is human to have that. I said, okay, let's write it down. Myself and my team, we got together, collaborated, we got our big, hairy, audacious goal. But what happened was along the way, in my first company and in lots of companies I see out there, the next goal that companies want to put in place or have in place is usually a 5-year fiscal goal. A 5-year fiscal goal. And I usually call it the 5-year super wild ass guess. It's a swag. And it might as well be a 10-year goal, honestly, but it's a super wild ass guess. And I just got to tell you, I had one too. I raised a lot of money in my first business off that 5-year super wild ass guess. But once you raise money off of it and then you get in and you have this big formal board of directors and all this stuff behind it, they expect you to deliver on that. And that 5-year super wild ass guess was not mapped out quarter over quarter. It wasn't close enough, really, and we couldn't line up to it. It was just a gap, like I'm showing here. And so what we did is we said, well, what would it matter if we maybe made it just 3 years away? We're in a tech business. There's lots of changes going on. Even 3 years seemed really far away, but we said, let's try 3 years. Let's just see if we can write down the fiscal, right? What we want to do in 3 years time fiscally. How many of what do we need to sell in 3 years time to make up that number? What would we be if we got there? What would be that goal? Like we had that big, hairy, audacious goal. What could we like paint a picture of? And then what would be some of the key capabilities we would have to have in place to get there? And we were, I was really quite nervous about doing it because you're going to put it all out there. You're actually increasing your risk of missing. That's what it feels like. But honestly, what we learned is when we put that 3-year highly achievable goal in place, we learned that it actually made it more predictable to get to that place, to that near term. It made it easier to map things out and to make decisions aligned to that big, hairy, audacious goal. And the interesting thing is we realized that that was the stepping stone we needed to achieve our 10-year goal. If we just kept putting a stepping stone out in front of us, that 3-year highly achievable goal, we always have one. It's always 3 years away. And so it just made it a lot more fathomable that we could step through this, right? Step right up to the BHAG. And in Paradata, we were 10 years old when we got sold, and we had reached that goal. And we just stepped. It was the 3 HAG that made the difference for us. And the first thing we did was we gutted one out. We didn't waste time doing all this analysis and all this stuff. The thing about the 3-year highly achievable goal is when we gutted it out, we wrote down what we wanted it to be, where we thought we needed to be on our 10-year journey in 3 years' time, without any, tons of research over there and tons of things over there. We took what we knew and the collaborative brain around the table, and we said, let's come to an agreement. Let's figure it out. So we literally actually answered these questions that I'm going to share with you. And we talked about them just a little bit last time. The first thing we did, obviously, we wrote down year ending, and we wrote down, our year end day and the year 3 years from where we are, right? So right now we're going to end anywhere in here fiscal 2020, right? And if we were writing this down right now, right, we'd write it down out for 2022. We'd have a 3 HAG. And as we roll to fiscal 2021, as we go to plan that, we're going to roll out to 3 years away from that. Okay, so it's 3 years away. We just write down the date so we can actually see it in our brains and go, okay, 3 years, 12 quarters. I got it. I can see it. Right? Then we're going to write down, and I hope you're going to do this along with me, and there's no right or wrong answers. What we want to do, most people don't want to write this down. Just like I felt risk in writing it down with my team too, is because we know as humans, as soon as we write it down, we want to be right. That's number one. It's hard to predict the future. I feel for weather people all over the world, right? They're wrong most days. Like, that's hard. And in British Columbia, they're definitely wrong most days, right? So, but they're working it, and they're working it from history. They're working it from things they see out coming towards them. And so the best thing we can do is we need to write it down, say it. So I want you to write down your gross revenue for your 3rd fiscal year. So if it's 2022, that fiscal year, or fiscal 2023, wherever you are in your cycle, I want you to write down the gross revenue. We're going to skip everything in between. That sounds ridiculous. We're going to skip expenses and profit. And we're going to write down the amount of cash you want in the bank in the last day of that 3rd year. How much cash do you want in the bank? A lot of people go, what do you mean? Like operating cash, this cash, that cash? The cash you need to have in the business to operate. Some people have policies. They want to have X amount of months of operating cash. Right? Others we need cash to make some acquisitions. So we need a bit more, right? But we want cash, not profit. You can't put profit in the wheelbarrow and walk away. You can put cash in the wheelbarrow and walk away. And so that's the strength of this, thinking of this way. It lines us up as we drive towards this 3-year goal for anything a market's going to put in front of us, right? It's one of the reasons why if we focus on cash, and we have these goals, it's why the companies that Jim Collins studied weathered any market, weathered anything that came to them. Okay, so you've got that written down. I talked enough about that. The next step, I want you to write down what are the widgets to get to this number. So you're going like, what's a widget? Like in accounting, manufacturing, it is how many of what do you need to sell? You might need to close, I'm making this up, depending on different businesses. Maybe you're a service-oriented business and you close contracts. So maybe you have to put in place 1,000 contracts in that year at an average dollar value of whatever, divide it back into your gross revenue. Usually calculators come out at this point, right? Usually calculators come out at this point. And so we just want to say how many of what. In our world, we were, our gross revenue, we were driving for 20 million. We were looking to put 2 million cash in the bank. The widgets, and I'm going off memory here, 12,000 new merchants in that third year in our 3HAG. I'm thinking of the year of 2004 because that's the example I usually use, and hopefully it will come into view here shortly. And we would need to have on our platform cumulative, we'd have so many merchants. So how many of what do you need to sell that year? How many widgets, right, do you need? Okay, I hope you wrote that down. Widgets, the things that flow through your business are critical, right? The dollars are only lagging numbers. Once we know the result, you can't go back and fix it, right? We need to know these widgets all along the way because we got to get our heads around quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? To get to our 3HAG. We want that ability to be able to see it. And a 3HAG, very different than your BHAG, right? Your 3-year goal, different than your 10-year goal. We absolutely want to know how. We want to get our heads around it. We want to ensure that this is what we want and we believe it's achievable, right? The next step I want you to do is I want you to gut out your 3HAG statement, just like you had a BHAG statement, right? Our BHAG was to be the leading global payment service provider. Our 3HAG of the time was to be the leading North American payment service provider, right? We figured we could do that in 3 years. At the time, we were owning the Canadian market. And we thought, okay, in 3 years' time, could we own North America, right? It doesn't have to be geography like that. You could have another view. I'm putting that out there as an example. So you actually write that statement so it gives your team a picture. You can see what it's going to look like 3 years from now. And you don't have to write numbers down because, right, the numbers are already written down in your fiscal measures and your widgets. Okay, next step. Most people are pretty good at writing this step down, regardless if they wrote anything else down. It's what are the 3 to 5 key capabilities that need to be in place to deliver on question 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in our world, it was things like a highly available, payment and platform environment, right? Redundant data centers. That was a capability we didn't have. We needed to do that on both sides of the border. We needed a white label reseller program because it's the only way we're going to grow across North America in order to have the Royal Bank of Canada to brand our platform, to have Bank of Montreal to brand it. And then it became Moneris. And then we went down into the States, right? And we got all those big companies to become resellers of our platform. It was a way we were thinking about what are the capabilities. We had no idea how to create that reseller program, but we had to figure it out to get to those numbers. Okay, 3 to 5 capabilities. Most people don't have issues writing that down in my experience. And then the next step is, what do you want to be known for in 3 years? So if we achieve, we're going to write down a 3-year highly achievable goal, number 1 to 5. And we actually, they say the name, we'll use Paradata, say the name Paradata. What do you want? What did we want people to think? Say Paradata and they think what? We wanted them to think that we make payments easy. That's what we wanted them to think. That was our whole goal of everything we did, is actually why we existed, right? In the back of how we fell into payments is that we found it really hard as a software company to integrate automated payments. That sounds ridiculous today, 25 years later, but 25 years ago, banks laughed at us that we said, payments would go over the internet too, right? And the whole world runs on payments over the internet. And during a pandemic, the whole world is running over the internet. So amazing what 25 years can do. But we want you to write down, they say your company's name in their brain, somewhere in their brain, they have a spot for you. And they go, oh yeah, that company does what, right? That's what we want written down. Okay, and you could have a few different ideas. The one thing I'm going to say, if you're on this webinar without your team, and you might obviously not be sitting with your team, but I gotta strongly recommend that every one of these questions we've worked through, as a CEO with your leaders, go back and work through it together, right? Use Mural. Mural.co is something I mentioned last time. It's a great online collaborative tool. And use Zoom, Teams, Google Hangouts, whatever you need to do, but work through the answers to these. It's unbelievable, and we want a collaborative answer. You know, I learned that lesson too as a young 20-year-old CEO, thinking that I'm the one that has to be, you know, have all the answers. I certainly don't have to be the one that has all the answers, right? We are a team of really smart people. So it's really important that we actually do this together, right? Do this together. That's the collaborative tool, mural.co. I just typed it into the chat. Is a great tool that I've been using throughout this whole time, and it just recreates doing a meeting like you're in the room. Okay, we ready to go on? So in your workbook or wherever you wrote it down, it doesn't really matter. I just want you to write it down, because humanly, when we write something down, right, we want to dig in and make it right. That's why we just gutted this out. And I want you to work with your team collaboratively to gut it out. And you come to agreement on these answers. And then from there, we'll talk about at the end of this, what are the other steps you need to do to actually keep aligning this up, right? Because this just says, now we've got a picture of our 10-year, we've got a picture of our 3-year, right? And then we want to actually work through, right? What do we need to do in the last, for a calendar year end, next 7 months of the year that we're facing, and then, the rest of this quarter. So here's the example I was trying to remember. So year end for us, June 30th, 2004. That seems like an eternity ago. Cash in the bank, forecast cash first, always stick to it, $2 million. Revenue, top line, gross revenue, 20 million. New merchants, we're going to put 12,000 new merchants on our platform. At the end of that year, we're going to have 30,000 merchants on the platform. Okay, so that's how we would get up to that $20 million gross number, leading North American payment provider. And then to answer the rest of those questions in this example, the key capabilities, highly available payment platform, support any currency, 24/7 support we had to have in place. And we had to have the top 10 payment processors in Canada and US, working with us, reselling our platform. These are capabilities that maybe one we had at the time when we wrote this down, which was 24/7 support. And the only reason why we had that is because we slept with our cell phones under our pillows, right? That was brutal 24/7 support. But we all took a turn until we could get a better phone system in place. But we mapped that out. If we're going to have 30,000 merchants on our platform, we can't be answering the phone under a pillow, right, in the middle of the night. It's not even healthy sleeping with a cell phone under your pillow. And you can see the last thing, what do you want to be known for, right? Make payments easy. That's what we wanted to be known for. It was hard to enable internet payments at that time. So that ended up being, so now you see our 10-year, you see our 3-year. If I look across here, now we're coming across, we've gone from a cultural foundation, lining up a long-term to a near-term, that's strategy, right? And that's just that scratching the surface of strategy. And the 12 steps in 3HAG Way, the number one step in the 3HAG Way is gutting out your 3HAG. So congratulations, you have one step down, a few more to go. And we're doing all this because we want to be able to map from here to there, right? We set out, there's a destination. We're in the bus now with our 120 people or our 2 people or our 20 people. It doesn't matter. We're driving along, right? We want everybody going in the same direction, understanding what decisions we need to make. Now we get into the day-to-day. Now we have to line it up to our 1HAG and to our 90 days. So one of the things, there's a couple of things that we can do right now. And what I would love for you to do is just write down the number one thing you got to get done from now until the end of your fiscal year. Like get rid of all the noise, everything. But what is the thing you need to get done for your business, not for your functional area? We're thinking team. We have our team hat on. And what is it that we have to get done for this year, whatever your year end is, right? The number one thing. And then as we, and I just want you to gut that out. You probably have that. That's easy. We're already thinking about these things. But now we have a 10-year and a 3-year, and we want to line that up. And maybe you're still saying, Shannon, I'm still running around putting the fires out behind me. So that's my number one goal. And so that's okay. Maybe the number one thing is I got to get all those fires out before the end of the year. Because your end of year could be a couple months from now. It could be at the end of June. Lots of Canadian companies, end of June is year end. So we've got to have a view of this, and we've got to line up the top priorities and what our fiscal numbers are. And we want to line those up that we're actually, thinking about here and now, and we're thinking out to what we just wrote down. And we want to do that in the context now of our destination, right? So it helps us decide maybe the priorities that you already have set are still valid. But if they're not, I want you to look at them to ensure that we can, we have visibility and we're putting the right resources in the right place. I've probably spent more time over the last 10 weeks with companies re-upping their annual plan and their quarterly plans. And as we roll forward to the end of this quarter, most of my companies are on a calendar fiscal year. We will then re-up, reconfirm, maybe reimagine the 3HAG, aligned to confirming their 10-year goal. That's why when we talked about this with Sherry and the team at WXN, why this is such an important time not to lose your 10-year goal and your 3-year goal. And for a lot of you today, congratulations, we've got a 10-year goal, got it out first time. We've got a 3-year goal for some people, got it out first time. And we've got to line up what we're doing right now with the cash and resources we have. So there is a spot to do that and to write those down. I know lots of people have many different systems and how to line these up. One of the things I mentioned last time that, I'm a fan of, I was the designer of the platform for my clients, and then we opened it up to many clients, is Metronome Growth Systems takes every one of these priorities and lines them up onto a platform so everyone sees them. That's why it exists. So it makes it easier because things change all the time. But at the end of the day, we've got to know these. And not only the leaders on this webinar, the whole company needs to understand where we're going. And our priorities that you saw there for Paradata, that 1-year highly achievable goal was to be the end of the year for us was to be the leading Canadian internet payment provider, right? And then the last thing we had to do was line up our 90-day priorities, right? What are they? Who owns them? Line up the fiscal numbers with the widgets. You can see, and every time I throw up the annual, I'm now throwing up the quarterly as in the example. It has new merchants. How many new merchants do we need to sign up? How many cumulative merchants do we need to have? And what's the MRR? So as we roll forward, I know you have a plan that you're operating on right now. I know you have an annual plan. The key is now is to link those up to your 3-year and your 10+ year goal. Because that allows us now to give us confidence when we're on the bus with 120 people. We know as we're lining up to that stop sign, you're probably already putting the blinker on because you know you need to turn right. Because we have now visibility, and the whole team on the bus could probably yell out to you, hey, Shannon, hit the blinker, we're going right, right? We want everyone to see where we're going. And this is the big value of making sure you take the time, you find the time for a 3HAG and a BHAG. Now I'm going to put one more slide up before I close out, and we'll open it up for some questions. And the slide can be a bit overwhelming. I'm just going to say it out loud, but it sort of reflects the journey we were on, learning this whole system, the host system that I showed you, and getting that 3-year highly achievable goal made the difference, made the biggest difference, probably an impact in Paradata, to us as team members, to the overall results, and to many coaches and clients around the world. It's the 3HAG. And it's this way, these steps and how they work with the whole system makes the difference. So you're going to be a bit overwhelmed with this, but it's going to build. So we've done foundation 1, 2, and 3 in less than an hour. We've got it out a 3HAG. Congratulations. I'm so happy about that. And then there's some other steps you need to take, right? And these are steps that are operationally and executionally and strategically. That's the middle of the house. Those are the things that, how we keep our sort of the momentum going through this time. And that's why we want to make these through decisions, right? What we talked about at the beginning. The where should we go and how should we do it comes out of some of these easily put in 1 hour at a time. You can work with your team as you work through this. I know some teams have taken like whole afternoon, 4 hours at a time to sort of chunk back into this and around it. And there's, as I said, I mentioned last time, it's still up there. There's a 11-part webinar with every one of these steps. I'm still offering that. I'll probably always offer that. It's just the right thing to do to help people get through this time. And it's the decisions we make right now will actually see the results on the other side in the next normal. So this is a buildup. It's an iterative approach. The first time round, you go like, oh my gosh, I just drank from the fire hose. The second time round, you go, oh yeah, okay, I'm starting to see it. Third time round. And that's why we always say it's a system. It's never a one and done. We always have to come back to this. We need to see our cash. We need a great team working with us. We need to focus on only what matters. And the thing I know is transparency is everything at this time and any time. Because if the team on the bus can't see out the windshield to the score, right, on what's happening every day, it's hard to make decisions to actually drive the bus forward. We need to give that way to have that daily transparent metric that we're getting somewhere, that we're winning. And at this time, I can tell you there's never a better time than doing it right now. So next steps. Well, I pulled that from Nike, I guess. Just do it. Just write it down. Just keep it in front of you. Just keep this 90-day rhythm going. Now that you've got it, don't stop it. And this is a framework. Make it yours. Make it what works for your team at this time. Everybody's at different stages. Everybody's got different abilities and different competencies. Pick out what works for you and just step over step, iterate, and build it up. It made the world of the difference for me. It's actually why, first company was a 10-year build. The second company was a third of the time. It took 3 years to build it. And we had the same core purpose, build a company that others would value. And we, right on our 3HAG, we took the term sheet. So don't be afraid that, it's wrong. It's not about being right. This is about good enough for us to get the next picture we need to take the next step. And with that, the system helps us keep it going, right? Keep it alive. Those disciplined habits, make this a habit. Make this view a habit in your company. Get the whole team on the bus with you so we're all driving in the same direction. So we can see those indicators on when we might have to put that blinker on. Because we're trying to build the longest cash runway we can so that we easily get to the horizon, to wherever that destination is. Don't forget, the decisions you make now will determine how strongly you come out of COVID-19 and how well you'll perform in the next normal. I got to thank McKinsey for that. They sent that article out literally yesterday. It's really, really thoughtful around the through cycle. Outperformers accelerated their decisions. Please accelerate your decisions with the place you want to go, right? And don't be afraid to explore maybe a new path. We've set up a way to help decisions for entrepreneurs. The webinar series is one thing. The trial, we want people to get their priorities up there, their goals up there. We actually just, I've never done this before, virtually. I've never done a boot camp before on this topic and all the 3HAG way, but we're launching that in June. Please join us if this is of any interest and we can help you get through this. The entire team, we want the entire team, you and your leadership team, to come. And then on our website, as you know, there's always a button there that you can always find one of our 70 coaches to talk to. So please, please don't hesitate to reach out. This is all we do every day, and I just love doing it. It just serves our core purpose is ensuring no one is desperate to grow up their company. So how about some questions? There's a Q&A button. There's a chat button. I have the chat up in front of me. If there's any questions, I welcome them. If there's anything that went by, an acronym that I said, and I do that a lot, that you weren't sure of, please, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa just said this was super valuable. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now I know when there's no questions, I've overwhelmed everyone. Hang on, I see one. I see a couple, okay. Okay, so one question is, would you follow this also for a new company just starting up in these times? The answer is a really loud, blaring yes. Yep, yes, 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 yes. If you're starting a new company at any time, it's so much easier actually to answer those questions and follow this than it is when you're a 10,000 person company backing it in. So it's really quite interesting. And we've done it with a 10,000 person company. We've done it with a 2-person company starting up. So yes, great, great question. Virginia, do you have a newsletter or something that the audience could subscribe to? Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. We have a newsletter off of our site, metronomeunited.com. You can subscribe to that. Also off our site, all the different tools that you've seen and things we put in the playbook, you can actually just log in, and we have all the resources from Metronome Effect, my first book, and 3HAG Way, my second book, all there, readily downloadable. People laugh when I say this, but I'm retired. This is my retirement. So I'm required to ensure that people find it, find growing up a company easy, speedy, and with confidence, and that you don't have to give up anything in your life to build a business. We shouldn't, right? We should have a way to do that. So all those tools are there. Everything we do at Metronome United is to give back to leaders and entrepreneurs to make it easier to grow their business. So a good question. So Michael Langode has, can I describe what happens when you hit the BHAG? So normally the interesting thing about that, it's a great question. And maybe I know, and the question is when you hit your BHAG, right? You're never, honestly, when we sold Paradata, we hit our BHAG. We were on there. Did we have another one? We hit our original BHAG. We're always re-upping the BHAG, just like we're re-upping the 3HAG. And that almost sounds annoying, like you're moving the finish line all the time. But that's not it. It's just that we're growing towards it. And when you get it, it'll expire. We'll run out if we don't have another one. And lots of companies I work with, they've either achieved their BHAG, and they're like, yep, got that done, good, we're good, off they go. But you need another one. You have to keep re-upping it. It's why we look at it every 90 days. And what happens around us in our environment will truly help actually, mold that big, hairy, audacious goal that we're driving for. I showed you ones from Microsoft and Amazon. Now I know their big, hairy, audacious goals are not those goals anymore. They already got there and they've moved beyond, and they have other big, hairy, audacious goals. Thanks, Michael, for that question. That's awesome. Okay, with that, unless there's one last burning one that pops in, I'm going to leave that and I'm going to hand it over. I'm pretty sure Sherry's here. I see Sherry online. I'm going to hand it over to you, Sherry. And I'm going to stop sharing because I think you have a couple of slides, right? Yeah, good.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's great to see you again, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with our audience. And it's interesting, if you're a purpose-driven person, and when it comes to the BHAG, I am a Jim Collins junkie.
Yeah,
and
me too.
My team constantly, they're always saying,
Yep.
"Oh, here we go." But it's great, right? It was an amazing book, and I actually got to meet him in person. He signed it for me, so that was one of my highlights of my.
Yes, I'm a groupie too.
Right? But I think if you're a purpose-driven person, whether you're a corporate executive, whether you're an entrepreneur, right? I just don't think you're ever really there, right? You reach those goals and you continue to want the next BHAG, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think it's healthy. I think it's a good thing as long as you you know, you take care of yourself and you're not hard on yourself when you don't reach the BHAG when you think you want to reach it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to be patient too.
And you know, it's a team, business is a team sport, right? So we've got a team with us and they need to, you know, believe and come along with us. So, and it's, we decide. So yeah, great.
So I don't even to think, you know, I've done my BHAG and that. No, keep going. Like, keep going forward. And I don't know if I'll ever stop, right? I'll probably be 90 and I'll still have BHAG. So.
Well, yeah, I know. That's why I laugh that I always say I'm retired. And then I actually started saying I'm reprired, being I'm in retirement because I still have my core purpose to grow people up and to make it easy to grow up a business. So
yeah, it's great. I can tell you're very passionate about it. And you're right. It's not, you know, you're passionate about it, and it is kind of like your retirement, but you're having
I'm having lots of fun doing it.
So everybody, just remember what Shannon has taught you today, and also remember that she has these. These are my copies, signed copies. So they're available on our website and on Amazon. Correct?
Yes.
So
Audible, Kindle. All of it.
Reach out for them, and
thank you.
Made a great offer for a 30-day trial run. I'd take her up on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing, and I'm so proud that you're a Top 100 Award winner.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for being on our webinar today and the last 2 weeks ago. So thanks again, Shannon.
You're very welcome.
We appreciate it. We love you, and we wish
love you too. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye. Okay, don't go anywhere. We still have some things to share with you. At WXN, for the last 17 years, we've been celebrating Canada's Most Powerful Women Top 100. Our nominations are on, and they actually, the deadline is for June 29th. If you know any incredible women, I'm sure you do, you know many of them within your network, please nominate them. There's several different categories, all the way from skilled trades to science and tech to corporate executives to CEOs to executive leaders, emerging leaders. Please check it out and nominate an amazing woman in your life. We would really encourage you, if you're not a member, to please join us. We have a really strong community, and we'd love for you to be a part of this. We want to help you along in your career journey, and we do have a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun events coming up in the next couple of months, because we all know that sometimes you just need a break from your BHAGs. We want to thank Patricia Karen Gigich. She is an amazing woman. She is a Top 100 Hall of Fame, and she actually let us use her artwork for part 1 and part 2 of our Unite and Rise webinar series. Thank you again to our National Event Series partner, Loblaw Canada, and also to our other corporate partners as well. We can't do it without you. Now, so this is the end of part 2 of our webinar series of Unite and Rise, but we do have part 3 and 4 coming up in the fall. But also, we have right now, we're running a virtual fashion event, something fun, with Frida's Fine Fashions, and our first one is on Friday, June the 5th from 4 to 4:45. This is invite only for Top 100 and members, so if you're not a member, you may want to be a member just to attend this fashion event. And then starting, can you go back, Gary? Thank you. And then starting on Thursday, June the 25th, this is an invite only as well for Top 100 and members. We have Art in a Box with Patricia Karen Gigich, who is a renowned artist. And it's just a fun night of women getting together, and she's going to teach us how to paint and to share, you know, all our emotions. So to take our emotions and to put them on canvas, right? It's just another way to release everything that's been going on and all our emotions and get it out there. In July, we're starting Words of Wisdom. Wow. So they're weekly podcasts with myself and our mentors and our mentees through the Wisdom Mentoring Program from 2019. So they're going to share a little bit of wisdom on the importance of mentorship and their lessons learned and the experiences through that. And then we're going to have something fun coming up in July and August, Summer Sizzle with WXN. These are virtual patio cocktail events. And basically, you know, through part 1 and part 2, if you've stayed with us through part 1 and part 2, you know, part 1 for our webinar series was more about, holy crap, COVID-19 is here, right? It's just, what do we do? This is here, it's serious. How do we deal with it? So it was about just talking about that. Part 2 was about, okay, we've dealt with it, we're dealing with it, it's here, but we need to continue to develop. We need to continue to hold our goals close to us and to continue to develop and, you know, on our career journey and in our personal lives as well. It's so important that we keep our eye on the ball and that we don't become paralyzed and so afraid that we can't move forward. And so then I thought, you know what, we've done part 1 and part 2, some pretty serious things that we did in part 1 and part 2. And now we want to have a little fun. We want to have a little levity. So we thought the Summer Sizzle would be a really great thing to bring to our community. And during the Summer Sizzle, we're bringing in women who are really great at helping us with our mental health, our spiritual health, and our physical health. Because I think right now, you know, we've been at home, well, I know I have. I've been at home, I've been sitting in a chair looking for the next email, what's going on in the world, what's going on in my business. And I just haven't really had time to step back and even have some fun. And I think going into the fall, I think it's really important that we step back and that we arm ourselves. And when I say arm ourselves, I mean to really be aware of how we're feeling again, right? Because this is a roller coaster ride. So it's affecting us physically, it's affecting us emotionally and spiritually. So I think we need to step back and say, how do I arm myself? How do I protect myself? How do I build my core strength mentally, physically, and spiritually? So that going into the fall, I'm prepared for whatever that looks like, right? I'm not going to be caught off guard. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to know what that looks like, and I'm going to be strong because I want to continue with my goals, with my family goals, with my career goals. And I want to be strong for my family and for my coworkers and for my company. So that's what Summer Sizzle with WXN is all about. It's going to be fun. We're going to have some music, some singers. We're going to talk about our emotional state. We're going to just have some fun on the patio. On the virtual patio, you know, bring whatever beverage that you prefer, and we'll just sit and chit-chat and learn something, but also arm ourselves. So the next thing we're going to do also in September, starting in September, we're looking at our monthly mojo with WXN. It's basically every week we get together for 45 minutes, coffee and conversation at WXN, and we have 24 WXN ambassadors that we're going to be introducing to you over the course of the summer. These lovely ladies are going to be taking this program and running with it, so stay tuned for that. And then starting in fall, in September, October, we're going to have the Unite and Rise Part 3 and Part 4. So stay tuned. It's going to be kind of our new world post-COVID. Okay, Gary. Our Wisdom Mentoring Program applications are opening up September 2020. Please go to our website to learn more about that. And don't forget about our virtual book clubs. They're also going to be coming up until we have them booked actually until next April. It's been very popular. I didn't realize we had so many top 100 award winners that were authors, so it's just an amazing, amazing program. Our next one is on Thursday, June the 11th with Ann Kaplan, How to Be Successful in Spite of Yourself. So please join Ann as she reads from her book and having discussion. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. for joining, and be safe. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.